Is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau a drain on the American taxpayers? Elon Musk certainly thinks so. Hi everyone, my name is Charles, and frankly, I'm disgusted at what the internet has become recently with the spread of mis and disinformation. Without facts, we have no reason. Let's fix that as we dive into this topic to find the answer, factually speaking. Just like all government agencies, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or the CFPB for short, has plenty of readily available information on its operations directly accessible from its website. This is quite literally the easiest topic to fact check, but I can understand why in this day and age it's just so hard to take the 20 seconds it took me to search and verify the information presented. I started with a quick search on DuckDuckGo, my search tool of choice, and I found the website for the CFPB. On that website is a 102-page report that outlines most of the pertinent information regarding the CFPB and its operations, including how much it costs to run. As of 2024, it requested a budget of $785.4 million, but it actually used $723.7 million. Right away, it might seem like a really big number. It's nearly $1 billion when you round up. And even Elon recently tweeted out that after he dismantles the CFPB, he thinks that the remaining $733 million should be returned back to the American taxpayers. Anyone who doesn't understand math likely just had their pupils dilate because $733 million seems like a lot of money. But their pupils will dilate again as they stare at a $2.15 check that they get if it ever actually happens, because they didn't realize that there are 341 million American citizens. However, that $2 check won't even find its way to your mailbox, because if Elon does return the money to where it came from, you'll discover that the CFPB is not a taxpayer-funded bureau. Yeah, you heard me right. It is not funded by taxpayers. It says so right here. It's actually a little shocking to me that nobody's talking about this. Everyone just assumes that because it's a government agency that it must be taxpayer-funded. How can a bureau of the federal government exist without being funded by taxes? That's a good question. I'm sure that some people will attempt to argue that the budget technically is funded by taxpayers, but it's not directly. That can only be considered true in the sense that the CFPB budget comes directly from the central bank, the Federal Reserve, and the Fed does create revenue for itself by loaning money directly to banks, which in turn loan that money out to American citizens who also happen to be taxpayers. Still, it would be misleading at best to make the claim that the Bureau is funded by taxpayers, because if you don't take out a loan, then you're never contributing to the function or the budget of the CFPB. One thing about taxpayer-funded departments is that every single American taxpayer is directly contributing to the funding of the departments. This is simply not the case with the CFPB. Now, the Federal Reserve prints money, which does cause inflation. Does that mean that the CFPB budget contributes to inflation then? Technically, yes, but honestly, no. It's not like the Fed is just printing money and then giving that money to the CFPB to use on their operation and their payrolls. The Federal Reserve offers a variety of services that generate revenue for itself, just like I mentioned before. By law, specifically the Dodd-Frank Act, the CFPB can request 12% of that revenue for its operation. It typically requests less than that. In 2024, the CFPB requested $785 million, but ended up expending about $1 billion, the overage of which came from collections like judgments it makes against companies found guilty of consumer fraud. Given that the money is coming from revenues and not just being printed, the CFPB doesn't directly contribute to inflation. However, the fact that the services provided by the Fed cost anything does sort of contribute to inflation, and the CFPB budget comes from those funds. The actual impact on inflation, though, is microscopic in the grand scheme of things. Now, factually speaking, it would be misleading and incorrect for anyone, Elon included, to publicly claim that the American taxpayers are paying for the CFPB and that those tax dollars are being needlessly wasted, justifying the shutdown of the department. Now, that last statement leads us to a good third question. Even though the CFPB is not funded by taxpayers, is it a wasteful department, and should it be shut down? Waste is a difficult term to quantify because the term is naturally subjective. I'm sure you've all heard the phrase, one person's trash is another person's treasure. Luckily for us, the CFPB is probably the best department for us to investigate on this topic because it actually has the direct mission of returning money back into the pockets of American taxpayers. In total, the CFPB has cost $9.8 billion, but has returned over $21 billion to the American taxpayers. An over 100% return on investment is absolute bonkers. Any trader on Wall Street would likely still kill someone in a cocaine-induced rage to get that kind of ROI. Put more simply, for every $1 that it costs to run, it has returned $2 to American citizens. Now, the returns from the CFPB are variable. Not every year is as amazing, but the Bureau is, factually speaking, not a drain on taxpayers, and it's not a waste of a supposed $800 million. These are the facts surrounding the headlines. And if that's all you care about, then great. I'm glad I helped. Thanks for watching. But if you've watched this entire way so far, you're probably still left wondering, why the fuck is Elon spewing this nonsense then? Doesn't he know the facts? Is he stupid or just evil? The answer to that question is...
maybe it's both.
As you're likely well aware, Elon is currently on a self-proclaimed and administration-honored task of ridding the government of wasteful spending. Unfortunately, the first part of this video has already proven that Elon Musk may not be the best person for this job, given that the CFPB is 1, not funded by taxpayers, and 2, not a waste. And that begs the question, why would he be saying that the CFPB needs to be shut down? Here's some facts about this, and I'll let you draw the conclusions that you want from them, and I'll give you my opinion at the end. Elon, if you're not aware, did not become a billionaire by drawing billions of dollars in salary from his companies. Elon is primarily a billionaire because he is the CEO and major stockholder in Tesla, which at the moment is worth more than the next 35 car companies combined. The reason why it's valued more is not because of current financial performance, which isn't to say that Tesla isn't profitable, because it very much is, but because of the promise that Elon makes to Tesla's shareholders about Tesla's future financial performance, particularly when it comes to something like full self-driving, or FSD for short. As of the time of this video, Tesla is valued at an unbelievable $1.3 trillion. Toyota, the second largest car company in the world, is currently valued at $237 billion. When Elon purchased Twitter, which by most accounts appeared to be something that he wasn't actually serious about doing, Elon had to finance the purchase by spreading out the debt amongst several lending institutions, 2 of which were Morgan Stanley and Bank of America. The debt was just too big for any one bank to take on. Elon also had to front cash for the acquisition. Since no billionaire actually has billions of dollars in liquid cash, he had to acquire it by selling off huge chunks of his Tesla holdings. He sold a total of $23 billion of stock in 2022, leading up to and after the purchase, which really frustrated his Tesla stockholders because the action tanked the price of the stock by 65% over the course of the year. It has since recovered, but I'm sure a lot of people were pissed or lost a ton of money. This video isn't about Tesla, but it's important to note that the profits seen at Tesla right now are honestly nothing extraordinary for a car company. In 2024, they reported a net profit of $7 billion. And that seems good, but if you compare that to Toyota, which again is valued at 1/5 of that of Tesla, Toyota made $26.8 billion in profit from April to December of 2024. That tells me that promises like FSD that Elon makes constantly is a massive contributor to Tesla's inflated valuation, which then directly benefits Elon because his net worth is based on the valuation of Tesla. In 2015, Elon claimed that Tesla would be done with FSD by 2018. In 2017, Elon claimed that by 2019, Tesla drivers would be able to sleep behind the wheel.
So leaving aside regulation for a second, in terms of the technology alone, the time when someone will be able to buy one of your cars and literally just take their hands off the wheel and go to sleep and wake up and find that they've arrived, how far away is that to do that safely?
I think that's about 2 years.
In 2023, Elon claimed that FSD would be achieved by the end of the year. It is now nearly 10 years since Elon first made his claims about FSD, and Tesla has yet to deliver on that promise. If you're asking why does this matter, it's possible that you missed the most blatant conflict of interest in what I just said. Do you remember the part where I said that Elon had to finance the purchase by spreading out the debt amongst several lending institutions? Imagine if you wanted to buy a $500,000 home, but you only make $100,000 a year. You don't have the cash to buy the house, so you go to the bank and you ask for a mortgage. They assess the value of the property, verify it, and then they lend you that money. What happens if, just 1 year after you buy the house, the bank discovers that you purposefully set fire to that house? Well, the property value is now 80% of what it was. Again, that house is not yours. It's also owned by the bank, which now has to downgrade the property value on its own balance sheets. Now, a couple $100,000 loss is not such a big deal to a bank, but unfortunately for Bank of America and all the other institutions that hold Elon's massive debt, businesses are not houses. A business's value changes constantly based on the management decisions and market forces of the industry that it's in. Elon has put all of his financiers in a very precarious position because the house analogy is exactly what happened to them. Elon Musk publicly inflated the cost of a publicly traded stock, Twitter, with his unsolicited bid, which he made publicly, which he didn't have to do. after having secretly purchased 9% of the company's stock. He then attempted to back out of the deal, leading to lawsuits and SEC scrutiny over potential market manipulation, which ultimately forced him to complete the purchase rather than face severe legal and financial penalties. Then he had to finance his acquisition and collected several lenders that were willing to take on various stakes in his debt. Then Elon took Twitter private and made a series of questionable decisions that drove away advertisers from the platform, as well as a significant portion of its user base, dropping the value of the company from $44 billion to an estimated $9 billion by October 2024, according to Fidelity Investments. In the house example, the house's value dropped by 80%, meaning each $500,000 home is now only worth about $100,000. In the Twitter scenario, this is the equivalent of nearly 89,000 homes being set on fire and losing $400,000 each. In this scenario, the bank would be in serious trouble. How does all of this relate back to the topic of this video? Bank of America and other financial institutions have a huge stake in Elon Musk's debt. Elon set fire to the value of that debt, putting the banks under. But luckily for Elon, he now finds himself in a very convenient position where he's been granted authority by the president in the United States, nearly free rein to stamp out government corruption and waste. So Elon starts with a department that likely has some bipartisan support, USAID. Like it or hate it, there are legitimate questions surrounding some of the payments that go out through USAID or the actual intention of US soft power. But then the second target was the CFPB, and as we proved, that makes no factual sense because the CFPB doesn't hurt American citizens. It does, however, pose a significant threat to banks. Banks exactly like Bank of America. Since 2011, when the CFPB was established, it has investigated and made judgments on Bank of America alone that total up to a whopping $1 billion. It's unclear how much of Elon's $21 billion in debt Bank of America holds, and the closure of the CFPB doesn't mean that Bank of America can get that money back. But if you're a bank and you have a debtor who can pull some strings that might mean that you'll save $1 billion or more over the next decade, wouldn't you be at least a little happy or more lenient with that debtor? This isn't to drum up conspiracy, but rather to just outline the only rational conclusion that I think that anyone can come to when faced with the facts that what Elon is saying about the CFPB and why it has to go are completely and factually untrue. This targeting of the CFPB provides a basis for a serious inquiry into his conflicts of interest and honestly should bar him from making any further actions without extreme scrutiny and oversight. But that's just my own opinion. So I'm curious about your input here. Do you agree or disagree with any of the statements that I made in this video? Did I get any facts wrong that you want to correct? Do you still think the CFPB needs to go? God, please don't make me regret saying this. But I welcome any comments on the matter. My request is to please be civil and treat each other and ideally myself with the respect that you or anyone else deserves. If you made it this far, I thank you. This is actually my first video on the channel. My name is Charles and I'm passionate about having discussions and debates free from tribalism, hate mongering, insult slinging, well, except for that F-bomb that I dropped on Elon earlier. But really, like, what the fuck? Or any other vitriol that has eroded the camaraderie felt by all of us Americans, regardless of our political affiliations. I am deeply frustrated and jaded by the effect that social media and conglomerate design narratives have had on our ability to communicate with each other, as well as the predominance and sheer fucking volume of mis and disinformation is now making evidence-based factual statements like the one in this video literal drops of water in an ocean of lies and deceit. If there's a question that you have that you'd like me to investigate for you, drop a comment below. It might be the topic of my next video. Additionally, before I go, here's a promise for this channel. There is no sponsorship in this video, and I vow to never sponsor this channel with any of the ridiculous ground news or AG1 or any other grifts that are plaguing nearly every video in my YouTube feed, despite me paying for YouTube Premium. Outside of the ads that get displayed for having this video up on YouTube, you will not be hearing me grift at all. I don't need this channel to make my income. It doesn't pay my bills, but I will welcome any support that comes my way from YouTube ads or donations that come from viewers like you who might appreciate the insights that I provide them. There's a link to my Patreon down below if you want to buy me a beer, or to make it easier for me to justify staying up until 2 a.m. writing scripts just like this one in the future. Thanks so much, everybody. Cheers. US soft power. But then his second target was the CFPB. CFPB?